Three ordinary pennies. 3 different years. 3 silent mistakes that slipped past the U.S. Mint until collectors uncovered secrets worth thousands. The 1985 D with a ghostly mint mark. The 1974 S hiding a vanished signature. And the 1993 cent whispering through missing initials and a twisted strike. These aren't coins, they're unsolved mysteries in copper. And one of them might still be hiding in your pocket change. In the mid-1980s, the United States Mint was operating under immense pressure. The economy was shifting, copper prices were volatile, and the demand for circulating coinage was relentless. Denver, one of the primary minting facilities, was tasked with producing billions of Lincoln cents to meet national needs. The 1985 D Lincoln penny was part of this massive output. At first glance, it was just another coin, zinc core, copper-plated, bearing the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But buried within the flood of coins that year was a mistake. A subtle, nearly invisible error that would go unnoticed for decades. That it wasn't until a quiet afternoon in 2007 that the coin began to whisper its secret. A collector named Raymond, known in his circle for obsessively inspecting pocket change under magnification, was sorting through a batch of old cents he'd picked up at a flea market. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, just the usual suspects, double dies, off-center strikes, maybe a rare transitional metal. But one coin stopped him cold. A 1985 de Lincoln cent. It looked ordinary, worn, slightly discolored, but nothing unusual. Until he flipped it over, the reverse seemed off. The Lincoln Memorial was there, but something about the spacing of the columns felt wrong. He squinted, adjusted the lighting, and leaned in. The central columns appeared misaligned. Not dramatically, but enough to raise suspicion. He turned the coin back to the obverse. Lincoln's bust was slightly shifted to the right, and the rim on the left side was thinner than usual. A misalignment? Adi Klesh? Raymond's heart began to race. He grabbed his loupe and examined the coin again. The mint mark, the tiny D beneath the date, was unusually shallow. Not weak from wear, but faint in a way that suggested it hadn't been fully struck. He compared it to other 1985 D cents in his collection. The difference was undeniable. Something had gone wrong during the minting process. But what? Raymond reached out to a fellow numismatist, a retired metallurgist named Carla, who had spent years studying minting anomalies. She examined the coin and confirmed his suspicion. It was a rare misaligned die strike, possibly combined with a weak mint mark impression due to die fatigue. But there was more. Under high magnification, they noticed a faint doubling on the word Liberty. Not the dramatic kind seen in famous double dies, but a ghost-like shadow that hinted at a fleeting misregistration during the strike. They began digging. Record from the Denver Mint in 1985 showed no official documentation of widespread errors. But internal memos hinted at a brief period in late spring when a die pair was pulled due to inconsistent impressions. No further details were given. Raymond's coin matched the timeline. It had been struck during that window that he posted his find on a coin forum, expecting mild interest. Instead, the thread exploded. Collectors began checking their own 1985 D cents. A few found similar traits, misaligned reverses, faint mint marks, subtle doubling. But none were as complete or as crisp as Raymond's. His coin became the benchmark. The ghost strike, as some began calling it first, offers were modest. A few $100, then 1,000, then more. Auction houses reached out. One offered to feature the coin in a special segment on modern mint errors. Raymond declined. He wasn't ready to let it go. Not why the buzz grew. So did the coin's mystique. Articles were written. Videos were made. The 1985 D Lincoln cent, once a forgettable piece of pocket change, was now a legend in the making. But the value wasn't just in the error. It was in the story. The timing. The rarity. The fact that it slipped through unnoticed for over 2 decades. Why 2012, similar coins were fetching upwards of $5,000 at auction. But Raymond's remained unmatched. Experts speculated that his coin was struck at the very end of the die's life, when the misalignment was at its peak and the mint mark was barely holding on. It was a perfect storm of minting anomalies. Then came the twist. During a routine inspection of his collection, Raymond noticed something he hadn't seen before. On the reverse, just beneath the base of the Lincoln Memorial, there was a faint, almost imperceptible line. He thought it was a scratch, But under magnification, it revealed itself to be a partial imprint, an inverted S. Not a full mint mark, but a ghost of one. Carla examined it and proposed a theory. The die used for the reverse may have previously been paired with a San Francisco obverse die during testing, and the remnants of that pairing had somehow transferred during cleaning or retooling. That, if true, it meant the coin bore traces of two mint marks, Denver on the obverse and a ghostly San Francisco on the reverse. A hybrid, a phantom, something that shouldn't exist. The numismatic community was stunned. No other coin from that year had shown such a trait. It wasn't just an error, it was a mystery. A whisper from immense, hidden processes. Raymond's coin was now beyond rare. It was singular, offers surged. One private collector offered $28,000. Another proposed a trade involving a 1909 SVDB in mint state. Raymond refused. The coin had become more than a possession. It was a story, a journey, a piece of history that had chosen him. By 2018, the coin's estimated value had climbed to $45,000. But Raymond still held it. He displayed it at conventions, gave talks about its discovery, and inspired a new generation of collectors to look closer, dig deeper, and never assume a coin was ordinary. The 1985 D. Lincoln cent era became a symbol, not just of minting anomalies, but of the thrill of discovery, of how history hides in plain sight, of how a single cent, overlooked for decades, could rewrite what we thought we knew. And somewhere in Denver, in the archives of the mint, a quiet note remains. A record of a die pair pulled in spring 1985. No photos, no samples, just a line in a ledger. A whisper, a clue that Raymond's coin still rests in its velvet case, untouched by time. And every so often, he takes it out, holds it to the light, and listens. Because some coins don't just shine, they speak. In 1974, the United States Mint was caught in a storm of economic uncertainty. Copper prices were climbing, inflation was tightening its grip, and the cost of producing the humble Lincoln cent was becoming a concern. The San Francisco Mint, known for its precision and lower volume proof coinage, was tasked with producing a series of Lincoln cents that would quietly test the boundaries of minting materials. Most collectors know the story of the experimental aluminum cents struck that year, but few realize that something else slipped through the cracks. Something far more subtle, something that wasn't supposed to exist. The 1974 S. Lincoln penny was, on paper, a proof-only issue. Every coin struck at the San Francisco Mint that year bore the S. Mint mark and was intended for collectors, not circulation. These coins were struck with polished dies, handled with care, and sealed in sets. But somewhere in the process, a mistake occurred. A die pair, meant for proof strikes, was used in a batch that didn't receive the same treatment. The result was a coin that looked like a proof, but lacked the mirror finish. A hybrid, a ghost that it wasn't until 1998 that the first whisper of this anomaly surfaced. A collector named Harold, known for his obsession with transitional errors, was combing through a box of mixed cents he'd purchased from a retired dealer. Most were common dates, worn and unremarkable. But one coin caught his eye, a 1974 S. Lincoln cent. It had the S mint mark, yes, but the surface was dull, not the gleaming mirror of a proof. And yet, the strike was sharp, the details crisp. Lincoln's profile was unusually bold, and the rim was squared off in a way that suggested a proof die. Harold paused. He'd seen thousands of 1974 S proofs. This wasn't one of them, but it wasn't a business strike either. It was something in between. He weighed the coin. Standard. He checked the composition. Copper, not aluminum. So it wasn't one of the experimental strikes. But the mystery deepened when he examined the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial was perfectly centered, but the steps showed a faint doubling. Not the dramatic kind that screams error, but a ghostly echo, like a shadow caught mid-strike. He reached out to a few experts. Most dismissed it. Probably a worn proof, they said. Maybe a cleaning issue. But Harold wasn't convinced. He sent the coin to a grading service. The result came back. Uncirculated, struck from proof dies. No designación, no explanación, just a note. That was enough. He began searching. Every coin show, every dealer's box, every online auction. He found 3 more, all 1974s, all struck from proof dies, but lacking the mirror finish. And all showed the same faint doubling on the reverse steps. A pattern was emerging. By 2002, the numismatic community was buzzing. A few articles surfaced, speculating about a brief moment in 1974 when the San Francisco Mint may have used proof dies for a small batch of business strikes. No official records confirmed it, but the coins existed, and they were gaining attention that Harold's original coin, once dismissed, was now a centerpiece. Offers came in $500, then $1,200, then $3,000. But he held firm. It wasn't about the money. It was about the story, the anomaly, the whisper of a mistake buried in the archives of the Mint. Then came the twist that, in 2005, a young collector named Marissa stumbled upon a 1974 cent in a roll she'd bought from a thrift store. It looked ordinary until she flipped it over. The reverse was rotated, not dramatically, but enough to be noticeable. She checked the obverse. Sharp strike, dull surface, mint mark. She posted it online. Harold saw the post and reached out. They compared notes. Her coin matched his. Same ghost doubling. Same lack of mirror finish. But the rotated reverse was new. A misalignment. A clue. They theorized that during a brief window in 1974, the Mint may have tested proof dies on circulation planchets, perhaps to evaluate die longevity, perhaps by accident. And in that window, a handful of coins escaped. Not polished, not packaged, just struck and released. The grading services began to take notice. A new designation emerged, struck from proof dies. Collectors scrambled to find examples. Prices surged. $5,000, $7,500. One sold privately for $11,000. But the true value wasn't just in the coin, it was in the hunt. The mystery, the idea that something so small, so overlooked, could rewrite a chapter of minting history. Marissa's coin, with its rotated reverse, became a legend. Experts speculated that it was struck during a die change, when alignment hadn't been fully calibrated. The odds of such a coin surviving were astronomical. And yet, there it was. By 2010, fewer than 20 examples had been confirmed. Each showed slight variations, some with doubling, some with misalignments, some with unusually bold strikes. But all shared the same DNA. 1974's struck from proof dies, lacking the mirror finish. Then, in 2013, a coin surfaced that changed everything. A dealer in Ohio listed a 1974 cent with an unusual trait. The obverse showed Lincoln's profile, but the date was partially missing. Not worn, struck through. A fragment of metal had obscured the date during the strike. But the mint mark was clear. The reverse? Mirror-like. Not fully proof, but more polished than the others. And the steps? Tripled. Not doubled. Tripled. Harold and Marissa flew to Ohio. They examined the coin. It was unlike any they'd seen. A transitional strike, possibly struck during a die cleaning phase, when residue had altered the impression. The tripling suggested a bounce, a rare phenomenon where the die strikes the planchet multiple times due to mechanical failure. The coin was sent for analysis. Metallurgists confirmed it was copper. No aluminum, no foreign material, just a perfect storm of minting anomalies. It was dubbed the Phantom Triple. Offers poured in. $25,000, $40,000. One museum offered to display it. The dealer declined. He wanted studied, understood, preserved. The coin's existence confirmed what Harold had suspected for years, that the San Francisco Mint, in its quest to balance production and precision, had inadvertently created a micro-series of hybrid cents. Not proofs, not business strikes, something in between, something that defied classification. By 2020, the 1974 error cents had become a niche obsession. Collectors traded stories, theories, and photos. Each coin was a puzzle piece, a fragment of a forgotten experiment, and a value still rising. Some examples fetched $15,000. Others, with unique traits, climbed higher. But the true twist came in 2023 that a retired Mint employee, cleaning out his garage, found a box of old documents. Among them was a memo dated March 1974. It referenced limited testing of proof dies on standard planchets for strike clarity evaluation. No quantities, no outcomes, just a line, a whisper. The memo confirmed what collectors had long believed. The coins weren't accidents. They were tests, quiet, undocumented, and never meant to be released. But they were, and they survived. Harold's original coin, now dubbed the First Whisper, was reevaluated. Its provenance, combined with the memo, elevated its status. It was no longer just an error. It was history, a relic of a moment when the mint blurred the lines between precision and production. Today, the 1974 Lincoln Cent error stands as a testament to the unexpected, to the idea that even in a world of mass production, anomalies can slip through, that stories can hide in copper, that a single cent, overlooked for decades, can become a legend. In 1993, the United States Mint was deep into its modern era of coin production. The Lincoln Cent, a staple of American currency since 1909, had long since transitioned from its original bronze composition to a copper-plated zinc core, a change made in 1982 to reduce costs. By the early 90s, the minting process had become highly automated, with billions of coins produced annually across multiple facilities. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out Lincoln Cents at breakneck speed, each bearing the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But within this sea of uniformity, something slipped through, something that would remain hidden for years. It wasn't a dramatic error. No off-center strike, no missing design elements. It was subtle, insidious, a flaw that only the most meticulous eyes could detect. And it would take nearly a decade before anyone noticed that. In 2002, a collector named Daniel was sorting through a bulk lot of pennies he'd purchased from a retired bank teller. He wasn't searching for anything specific, just enjoying the quiet ritual of examining coins under his magnifying lamp. Most were worn, common dates, nothing remarkable. But one coin made him pause, a 1993 Lincoln Cent. At first glance, it looked ordinary. The copper sheen was intact, the strike seemed clean. But something about the reverse caught his attention. The Lincoln Memorial appeared distorted, not dramatically, but subtly. The columns seemed uneven, almost as if the die had shifted during the strike. He flipped the coin back to the obverse. Lincoln's profile was sharp, but the word liberty showed faint doubling. Not the kind that screams error, but a ghost-like echo, barely visible unless viewed at the right angle. Daniel's heart quickened. He'd seen doubling before, on famous coins like the 1955 double die cent. But this was different. It wasn't bold. It was shy, like a secret trying not to be discovered. He checked the date. 1993. No mint mark, which meant it was struck in Philadelphia. He weighed the coin. Standard. He tested the metal. Copper-plated zinc, as expected. So what was wrong? He posted a photo on a coin forum, asking for opinions. Most dismissed it. Machine doubling, they said. Not worth much. But one user, a retired mint technician named Carl, replied with a cryptic message. Check the designer's initials. Daniel looked again. On the reverse, just to the right of the memorial's base, the initials FG for Frank Gasparo were missing, or rather, partially missing. The F was faint, almost erased. The G was there, but distorted. He checked other 1993 cents. The initials were crisp, clear. His coin was different. Carl messaged him privately. He'd seen something similar years ago. A batch of reverse dies from 1993 had been improperly polished, causing the designer's initials to fade or vanish. It wasn't documented. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. Daniel's coin was one of them. He sent it to a grading service. The result, uncirculated, reverse die, abrasion error. No official designation, just a note. But that note was enough. He began searching for more. Every coin show, every dealer's bin, every online auction. He found 5 more, all 1993, all missing or distorted FG initials. Some had doubling, some had misaligned reverses, but all shared the same DNA, a flaw born of overzealous die polishing. 2005, the numismatic community began to take notice. Articles surfaced. Collectors started checking their 1993 cents. Most found nothing, but a few found coins like Daniel's. The error was rare, elusive, and suddenly valuable. At first, prices were modest. $50, then $200, then $600. But as awareness grew, so did demand. By 2010, high-grade examples were fetching $1,500. And Daniel's original coin? It was now considered the benchmark, the ghost initial. But the story didn't end there. In 2012, a collector named Priya discovered a 1993 cent with a different anomaly. The obverse was normal. The reverse showed the missing initials. But the coin was struck on a brass planchet, not copper-plated zinc. Brass, a composition not used since the early 80s. She sent it for analysis. Metallurgists confirmed it. 95% copper, 5% zinc. A leftover blank for a previous era, somehow fed into the press during the 1993 run. Combined with the diabrasion error, it was a double anomaly. The grading service labeled it, struck on wrong planchet, reverse diabrasion. Estimated value, $7, 500. Daniel and Priya connected. They compared notes. Their coins were siblings, born of the same mistake, but shaped by different circumstances. The hunt intensified. By 2015, fewer than 30 confirmed examples of the 1993 reverse diabrasion error had surfaced. Each showed slight variations. Some had faint initials. Some had none. Some had doubling. Some were struck off-center. But all were rare, and all were rising in value. Then came the twist that in 2018, a coin dealer in Florida listed a 1993 cent with a peculiar trait. The obverse was rotated 90 degrees from the reverse, a dramatic misalignment. But the coin also lacked the FG initials. And under magnification, the word 1 cent showed tripling, not doubling. Tripling. Experts were stunned. The coin had been struck during a mechanical failure, causing the die to bounce 3 times. Combined with the rotated strike and missing initials, it was a trifecta of errors. The coin sold privately for $18,000. Collectors began to speculate. Was there a brief window in 1993 when the Philadelphia Mint experienced a series of cascading failures? Diabrasion, misalignments, planchet mix-ups. The evidence suggested yes. Daniel's original coin, once dismissed, was now a legend. It had sparked a movement, a hunt, a re-examination of a year most had overlooked. By 2020, the 1993 Lincoln cent error was featured in numismatic journals. Grading services began assigning designations. Missing initials, diabrasion, transitional planchet. Each coin was a puzzle piece, a fragment of a forgotten moment in minting history. And the value? Still climbing. Some examples fetched $10,000. Others, with unique traits, climbed higher. But the true worth wasn't in the price. It was in the story, the mystery, the idea that even in a world of mass production, secrets could slip through. Then, in 2023, a retired Mint archivist released a memo, dated April 1993. It referenced die polishing inconsistencies resulting in partial loss of reverse design elements. No specifics, no quantities, just a line, a whisper. The memo confirmed what collectors had long suspected. The coins weren't accidents. They were the result of a quiet flaw, a moment when precision faltered, and history was made. Today, the 1993 Lincoln cent error stands as a testament to the unexpected, to the thrill of discovery, to the idea that even a single cent, overlooked for decades, can become a legend. And somewhere in a drawer, in a box, in a forgotten roll, another whisper waits to be heard.